Over the 4 years that I attended film school, I got called a lot of things, but there was one word that I got called more than anything else: pretentious. While people in my screenwriting 1 class were discussing their love for Star Wars and Back to the Future, I would always try to swing the conversation towards Lars von Trier, Steve McQueen, and Kelly Reichardt. Our professor assigned us a presentation on foreign directors, and while the class didn't know a single person on the list of options, I knew every single name on the page. Now, this isn't me trying to flex my ultimately pointless knowledge. I'm just trying to portray how frustratingly difficult it was to relate to the common viewer. Well, except for one thing. I was sitting in that very same class and the subject of paper towns was brought up. And to the surprise of everyone, I couldn't stop talking about how much I loved it. That's right, folks. Just like everyone else in Generation Z, or just everyone else in general, I'm an absolute sucker for YA novel film adaptations. It's almost depressing how much I enjoy these films that I can generally agree are nothing special in a critical sense. All the Bright Places, Love, Simon, The Perks of Being a Wallflower, The Fault in Our Stars, heck, even The Princess Diaries. I love every single one of them. And I often question myself as to why I have such an intense attachment to these films, to the point where I remember them much more than I remember films that are significantly better than the aforementioned titles. Luckily, today is the day that we are going to be taking a look at that with the help of what I think is the perfect and most prolific example to use here: To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Just like all of the other titles I've mentioned, I know good and well that this is a pretty mediocre film, but every time a new entry into the franchise comes out, I sit down and watch it on release day and write an ecstatic 5 out of 10 review on Letterboxd promptly afterwards. This weekend marked the conclusion of the series, with To All the Boys Always and Forever releasing on Netflix. Surprisingly, most people fell into the same camp that I did, as when I looked at the reviews, the ratings of the film would be between a 5 and a 7, but the actual review would be overwhelmingly positive and discuss how adorable the film is. I decided to ask some of my non-film friends about it too, and they seemed to share a very similar sentiment about it as well. So it seemed like everyone was on the same page that while it's not technically special, it gives unlimited doses of serotonin and makes people feel bubbly and happy after they have finished. I juggled those thoughts around in my head for a while, slept on the subject matter, and when I woke up, I came to a horrifying realization that would change the way that we look at these types of films forever. Romantic young adult novel adaptations, which I will now be referring to as the Adaptations because there is no way I'm constantly saying that for the rest of this video, are our generation's Hallmark movies. I'll give you a minute to let that sink in. Now, before you erupt into protests about how abhorrent Hallmark films are, at least give me the chance to go over the parallels that I have drawn between the two genres. And then afterwards, you can decide if you want to rip out my spleen, okay? First of all, each film in either group is eerily similar to its counterparts. It has become common practice nowadays to make fun of how all Hallmark films are composed of the same formula, especially the Christmas ones. A woman in her 30s or 40s works for a big company in the city. She's sent back to a small city on assignment, possibly her hometown, where she either meets or reconnects with a handsome man who she eventually leaves her job for at the end. There was a day last winter when I let my mom convince me to watch a bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies with her, and I swear that they were literally replicas of each other, just with slight variations of actors playing the main characters. Seriously, I'm convinced that they put one of the guys in a duplication chamber and just pumped out a bunch of clones with only slight alterations. I can still hear you yelling at me to explain despite my fantastic joke, so I'll continue. In this genre of young adult novel adaptations, although maybe not to the extent of Hallmark movies, there are constantly very similar through lines as well. A high schooler has a level of unrequited love for one of their classmates, and through the ups and downs of almost identical emotional beats, which almost always include either a betrayal of trust, a discovery of true intentions, or a reveal of a secret, they either end up with said love interest no matter the trials and tribulations that they went through, or they end up satisfied with the lesson they were taught through the whole ordeal. I could still hear you complaining, and I understand why. I mean, every film has emotional beats, right? What does it matter if every single one of these films hit the same check marks consistently? I gotta have more proof than that. To this I say, of course I do. But to really get further into it, we gotta go below the surface level and put our deep thinking caps on. I will give you a moment to get them fastened. Alright, here we go. In 2018, Alexander Kunst conducted a study on the demographics of people who watched the Hallmark Channel by age, and it was discovered that almost 50% of Hallmark's audience are viewers between the ages of 30 and 64, which, quite conveniently, is the age range that most, if not all, of the main characters fall under. In comparison, according to Connie Harbison of Baker & Taylor, which is a prominent book distributor, the age range of YA novels is 12 to 18, and according to Who, the term young people covers ages 10 to 24. So it's safe to say that the main demographic of people who watch films like To All the Boys I've Loved Before fall within the age range of the characters, give or take roughly 5 years. You may now be asking, what's the point? What does all of this research really lead to? Well, have you ever asked your parents why they watch Hallmark movies? I know that sounds pretty dumb, but really think about it. I had spent years joking around with my mom while she watched these incredible corny films with identical plots, and I may have asked the same question in rhetorical jest, but I never really wanted to listen. So, a couple years ago, I decided to truly listen to what she had to say in response, to which she gave 3 answers, which line up with the answers that I have received from many other people within the target age range that I've talked to about the subject. 1. She loved the gorgeous backdrops and scenery that the environment and the nature had to offer. 2. She took these movies as opportunities to live vicariously through the main character, as she too had dreams of escaping the strenuous life she led in the city and go live in the countryside or a small town. And most importantly, 3, they're just easy to watch. You must see where I'm going with this, right? The adaptations fit every single description but for us. In regards to the first point, I tweak the statement by removing scenery and replacing it with the word aesthetic. There's a certain cute peppiness to all of these films that really resonates with our generation. A sense of carefree infatuation with the moment the characters are living in that we all wish we could fall into 24/7. Also, I'd be a liar if I was to say that I didn't sometimes throw aside my fledgling love life and put myself in the shoes of Peter Kavinsky, as receiving such a grand gesture from someone in high school would have absolutely knocked my socks off. And being one of the girls growing up, you have no idea how many times I've heard from them wishing they had a boy deliver them a pizza with sorry spelled out with M&Ms on it. I think high school is also a hotbed of thoughts for anyone in the young adult range. If you're in it, you're thinking about how it's not like how you see in these types of films and wishing that it was. If you're not, you're reminiscing on your time there and wishing it was more like you see in these types of films. It's the reason why coming-of-age films is one of the most popular genres we have right now. People are very interested in fantasizing about the optimal situation that their youth could be or could have ended up as, just like people watching the Hallmark Channel do, just with a little more experience under their belt. And now for the final point, we have to unfortunately get a little more serious. I've had a lot of film friends poke fun at me for enjoying the adaptations to the level that I do, and I try to explain it like this. Things in the world right now aren't particularly good, and there's a chance that they might not be good for a while. In fact, I personally feel like things in the world haven't ever been good, but the thing that shall not be named has definitely intensified those feelings inside of everyone. Remember when I said that high school was a hotbed of thought for young adults? Imagine how it must be for the kids who won't have memories of their senior year because they're barred from attending and seeing their friends every day. In a world where all the factors surrounding us are very challenging, What's so wrong with people wanting to enjoy easily digestible media that makes them feel really good? I think we've come to a point in our culture where we need to stop making fun of people for enjoying things. We're living in a time where there's very little to enjoy in our immediate surroundings, so why should we make an effort to shame people for that enjoyment? I, for one, will be right there to watch The Sky is Everywhere when it releases, and you never know. Maybe I'll include a Hallmark film or two in my watch list. And I encourage you to do the same. Thank you to my patron Weston Katecki and my producer AJ Ford. Really hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please subscribe. There are links to my Patreon and my Twitter down in the description if you care to donate to the channel. And thank you so much for the support going on. I've decided to change up my schedule to try and upload every other day, so I'm going to hold myself to that, and I hope you guys do too. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.